Another beautiful day it is for us here on Classic FM, and welcome to the discourse. I'm Sulaiman Lede. Today's a special one because from today all through the week, a lot of people will be saying this beautiful phrase, greetings, happy 4th of July. And of course, it's in commemoration of the 245th independence of the United States of America. And of course, Nigeria and America, you all understand that, partnership, that relationship, and there's hardly any state and local government that you don't have a Nigerian American, and that is why we are also joining in that celebration today. On today's discourse, we'll be looking at some key, issues that will, answer some of those frequently asked questions that some of you have already sent in, and of course, especially our students and those who will be thinking of business. A couple of things that the consulate, the United States consulate, is doing in Nigeria that if we don't get to look into some of them, we just might not know what they're doing. And of course, some of these are not even known to journalists. It's amazing because my digging deep into this program today has actually led me into uncovering some of these things done by the consulate as well as with Nigerians. Today we'll be talking with someone. Initially, when I saw the last name, I was asking, is it African?
I'm from Edo State, by the way.
You heard that. So I was going, is it African? So I went to Tayo. I said, Tayo, how does he pronounce his last name? I was hoping that he would tell me something like Ibeli. So that I was okay, he's American. But he says I can go with Stephen Ibeli. And he's the consulate, the public affairs, officer for the consulate. Good to have you, Stephen.
Ikesal Nadeu How Una Day. Thanks very much for having me.
We day fine.
We day campe.
You hear that? So, happy 4th of July, Stephen.
Thank you very much. Happy 4th of July to all the listeners out there.
Well, a lot of people were excited when Classic FM came up with that promo, talking about this day that you'll be coming on the show. And even someone, an academic, Dr. Frederick Brymer, called in again because he's listening from Edo State. And he says to me, I want to be a part of that program. Is that going to be a repeat? And I said, yes, as always, we'll have a repeat. And he said, because my students said my international relations students will like to listen to the program when you guys are done. And I said, well, don't you worry, and you hear all of that. And again, if you're listening, Dr. Brymer, there's something again that Stephen will also share with us about his visit to Edo State. A lot of conversation will hover around Nigeria relationship with the United States, and for Stephen, he's gone round. He's been to UN Libya. You were also in where else? I
was in Russia.
You were in Germany?
Germany, Oman, Tunisia, Morocco. So at Saudi Arabia, I worked in the private sector in Saudi Arabia, and also in the neighborhood in Equatorial Guinea, working there. But this is my first time in sort of sub-Saharan Africa working for the Department of State, and it's wonderful.
Well, and I must also say, we're excited here on Classic FM to be having you because Tayo said to me, Sulaiman, this is Stephen's first, appearance on any radio station in Lagos, right?
Absolutely.
So, Classic FM is the very first point of call, and I say thank you for choosing us, and you're welcome.
It was our only stop, Classic FM.
All right, okay, so let's quickly start looking at, every time we hear happy, 4th of July, and this is 245th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Let's start by asking how the US Embassy and Consulate in Nigeria will be celebrating 4th of July this year, now that we're still in COVID.
Yeah, no, it's been a bit different with the pandemic. We usually have a very large party or a very large reception, as we call it, with many of our valued partners and guests. Unfortunately, this year we couldn't do that because of COVID restrictions. However, we have a great lineup on social media, including goodwill messages from our ambassador, Mary Beth Leonard, and our Consul General, Claire Pierangelo, as well as, of course, fireworks, right? America's well known for fireworks. So we have a compilation of fireworks that will be rolling off social media as well. Our handles are US in Nigeria. And we're posting on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
You know, I'm happy you gave that handle because a lot of questions that we can't take here will go on your page. And did you guys hear Stephen talk about Twitter? We'll come about Twitter. We'll come back there and talk about Stephen's handle on Twitter again. And but quickly, let's talk about 4th of July. It's something exciting. You said something about fireworks. I've also been one of the lucky few who's always been invited to experience fireworks, at the residence of, the CG. But this time, we're not saying that. Let's talk about, do you miss it? When you're out, you're not in the United States and it's not happening. What exactly do you miss the most about, 4th of July?
That's a great question, Suleiman. It's July 4th is a wonderful holiday, I think, because it really unites all Americans. So no matter what your creed or your color or your gender or your religion, all Americans celebrate 4th of July. It's in the summer, and so people spend a lot of the time outdoors, barbecues. It's a real family type of holiday as well, and so it's just a great opportunity for people to catch up and really celebrate our country and celebrate what our country is all about, and celebrate what our values are. It's not that is what really unites Americans. It's the values that we share. It's the beliefs that we have, even though we all come from different backgrounds and different races and creeds. And so it's a really wonderful holiday where you can have all of these. It really symbolizes this kind of approach and really unites all of us.
Two key things I picked from you: symbolism of this very great day, as well as taking us back in history. Let's bring in the children, the American children. Do they also learn about the U.S. History, about the Constitution, about the way 4th of July came about? What do families tell their children about this great day?
Absolutely. It's, as with many countries, we're very proud of our history. We're very proud of this period of our history where we did become independent, and so school kids learn about this, learn about the history, especially the whole history behind the independence, why that happened. It's a way, again, to unite everyone in sort of a common understanding of our history. In fact, it's even on our foreign service test, the test that I took to enter the Department of State. There's quite a bit of number of questions on American history and the Constitution and the amendments. I've seen the Declaration of Independence in Washington. It's just a wonderful document to see and really, I think, set out the true spirit of our country, and that all people are created equal. And it's something that we are trying still today to meet the ideals of the way the founding fathers envisioned the United States of America.
So apart from American history, if you look at American history, it's one of the most dynamic histories. Because it changes. You have a lot of people of color, people of other race, coming in. And you said something about equality, which is very key, and it's the hallmark of the American tradition. Do they also spice some of the history of all the parts of the world? And I'll say this because I remember that 2010 during our IVLP, some children were asking questions, thinking that Africa was a country. And it worries, me till date that perhaps do we have that in schools for children to understand that, look, this is a continent?
No, absolutely.
I don't know if you've heard that before, how children think that Africa is a country.
I've certainly heard that before, and that is covered in the high schools and certainly in universities. America is a big, diverse country, and so I think what you see sometimes is Americans are more focused inwardly than outwardly. If you look at the number of Americans that have passports, for example, it's only like 20% or 25%. So I think a lot of Americans are a little bit, as I said, focused inward. But there are many people like myself, like many others that live outside of the United States. You find Americans everywhere. There are thousands of Americans living in Nigeria, as well as many other countries. And so I think you really have an appreciation for that. And certainly the Biden-Harris administration also has an appreciation for that, through their travels. And we hope that as we break out of our post-COVID sort of restrictions, that we'll see a lot more travel by our Secretary of State and by the Vice President and indeed the President himself.
I think we just really can't wait for COVID to be over, because this moment, honestly, that, falls on a Sunday should have been a big fun moment for a lot of people. The suya, you've had a taste of that.
Of course.
I know by now we should have been having that. But again, let me bring in some personal, questions here. And Stephen, in all honesty, who from American history best embodies the true spirit of July 4th for you?
No, that's a great question. There are so many Americans. I think that really comes to mind for me are a few names. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, because they really challenged America to live up to its ideals, that all people are created equal, that they fought for those rights in ways that were large and small. And so we're a better country for their struggles and for their efforts. And it's a struggle that goes on today. As the Constitution and the Declaration said, to form a more perfect union. And that's what we work on today. Another real giant of American history is Thurgood Marshall, who was a Supreme Court justice. He fought the system within the system. He was a lawyer. He was a founding member of the NAACP. And he argued one of the landmark cases, Brown versus Board of Education, that ended segregation in schools in the United States. And then himself became a very well-respected and influential Supreme Court justice. And so I think he's a real hero, of the United States. And another one, going back sort of to the beginning of our history, is George Washington, who was the first president of the United States. And he really set the tone for what Americans and what the United States really reveres, which is the peaceful transfer of power. He was asked again and again to keep going and go to a third term and a fourth term, but he refused. He stepped aside and said, no, my time is done, constitutionally done, and so now it's time to hand over to another person who wins the election. And that really set the tone for that peaceful transfer of power, and it's something that we really revere as Americans.
Well, I think it's good a thing that you mentioned George Washington, because for a bit, we're not going back, but we're just recalling not too long ago, a lot of people started talking about George Washington, a man who would have been able to stay put in office without any acrimony, and everyone would have said, hey, right on. But he said, no, I think I'm done and over with, because this is the law. Quickly here, for those listening, you can be a part of the program by letting us have your questions or your comments or your congratulatory messages to the people of the United States on 0909-217-2973. That's on WhatsApp, 0909-217-2973. And of course, my guest today is Stephen Ibeli, who's
from Edo State.
He's chosen a state already, and we'll come back.
That's what people have asked me. They said, are you from Edo State? This is before they got to know me and met me, but they would say, Ibeli, that sounds like a name from Edo State. So
absolutely, and that's
it's close to my heart. Yeah.
So, and, talking about history, we're not done yet. 4th of July is today. A lot of people, it might be the first time for some getting to hear some of these, great names, especially like Thurgood Marshall. But again, I know a lot of Nigerians know about Michael, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and George Washington. But, what gives you hope for the future of the U.S.-Nigeria relations? You've been here, for some time now, and I know you've gone around some other parts of the world. There must be some sense of hope since your arrival here in Nigeria. Before we start talking about your home state of Edo State.
No, absolutely. Nigeria is a partner of the United States, and we work very, very closely together to build a really solid foundation in many, many different areas: health, education, cultural exchanges, rule of law, economic development, and indeed security cooperation. I think what a lot of people sometimes forget too is the cultural ties that bind our two great countries. Music, art, film, for example, and especially music. Burna Boy and Wizkid, a shout out to them both, who won Grammys just a few months ago. Davido, Tiwa Savage, techno. Just reading recently that Lionsgate, which is a movie company in the United States, just bought their first Nigerian film, Soldier's Story 2. Return from the Dead. So this really shows that. Another interesting aspect of this relationship is the number of Nigerian Americans in the United States. Many people think Nigerians live in other countries, but actually the highest number of Nigerians outside of Nigeria live in the United States. It is the biggest diaspora group outside of Nigeria. And what's very interesting about that group is that they are the number one most highly educated immigrant group in the United States. They are also the most affluent immigrant group in the United States. And so I think the reason for this, or one of the reasons for this, is you combine this industriousness of the Nigerians, the dynamism of the Nigerian people, the entrepreneurial drive of the Nigerian people, and you combine that with a system where they are allowed to excel, where they can succeed, not because of who they know, not because of how much money they have or don't, but because they work very, very hard, and the system is fair to everyone. And we've seen that again and again and again. And so I think that's sort of a great message for that. We also have the highest number of Nigerians studying outside of Nigeria. Nigeria is the 11th largest sending country of students to the United States. There are almost 14,000 Nigerians currently studying in the United States and participating and partaking in a world-class American education, and then bringing that knowledge back to Nigeria, bringing those skills back to Nigeria, and really investing in their country. And it's something that we work very, very hard at the consulate to grow the number of students, to provide opportunities, for students to go to the United States. And so all of these factors really, I think, are really binding and continue to bind and continue to forge closer ties between the two countries.
I think I'm excited about the issue of you raised, or the points you raised about Nigerians, especially those who are doing well in the education sector. You also raised some key issues there. And the good thing here, why Nigerians will be excited, Stephen, is because sometimes when these information come up, people think that it is one of those fake news. And now it's coming from Stephen, and people will understand that this is data available to the consulate, and that's what you've just shared with us. We'll come back talking about education, because some of those questions we've been collating since a lot of people knew you were coming borders around education. A lot of Nigerians still would want to seek education, especially university education, that's college education in the United States. So we'll take their questions when we get there. But again, for the last 25 years, the U.S. Africa engagement has received bipartisan support in Congress, particularly on strengthening public health, developing local infrastructure, political stability, advancing trade and investment. So what have been some of the greatest strides you've seen as a result of the U.S. engagement in Nigeria?
Great question, Suleiman. Again, the relationship is really deep and very strong. But we really are committed to assisting Nigeria in combating infectious diseases, for example, advancing global health security. The United States, since 2003, has spent over $9 billion in HIV treatment. We actually treat about 80% of all HIV patients in Nigeria. And we work very, very hard at that. And I know we're really working hard to achieve what they call in the medical field epidemic control. And so that where the HIV is not transmitted to other people. Over 1.2 million people living with HIV receive free treatment through our PEPFAR program, the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Pregnant women as well receive counseling for that. And so that is really, really, really key because obviously a healthy population can contribute. There are other investments as well. The United States is the biggest foreign direct investor in Nigeria, focused on some key sectors. They're also eligible for preferential trade benefits under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, commonly known as AGOA. And so they're able to sell their goods at a preferential rate in the United States. And this is hoping to grow exports, Nigerian exports to the United States. And so, and as I said, I mentioned all of the cultural ties and private sector ties as well. And so we really want to see all of these aspects grow to bind our countries in a closer way.
You know, I'm happy. I think this question or your answer has sort of answered some of the questions asked. Specifically, Abu Otene, I'm sure you're listening. You asked what the American government, or why has the American government left the Nigerian nation starved of all the American expertise in the areas of fighting insecurity, relationship, about American interests. But now you had Stephen. He's been able to, in one breath, tell us about, told us rather about health, about education, about what especially they're doing to control infectious diseases, and the HIV, is very big. That's a huge one, and also the AGOA and the PEPFAR. These are partnerships that a lot of people will be excited if we especially once we move on. And now that Abu should have gotten an answer to that. And quickly here, let's take this down to Nigeria. And just last year, also, how do I like to put it? Another year of the COVID. Yes. Last year marked the 60th anniversary of Nigeria's independence.
Yes.
Which is more or less like Nigeria's bilateral relations, I meant to say, between the United States and Nigeria, with a view of looking at administration. How would you describe the U.S. and Nigeria relationship? What can Nigeria, because those are some of the questions some are asking, what can Nigeria expect from the new administration of talking about the Biden administration?
Absolutely. I think many have seen a pivot from the new administration. There's certainly a focus on more multilateralism, and that takes many different forms, whether that's NATO, whether that's rejoining the World Health Organization, rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement. You've also seen sort of the rise of what we call the Quad, which is India, Australia, Japan, and the U.S. to talk about security in the sort of South China Sea, for example. And then again, real focus on also committing to the challenges of COVID by taking an active role, not only in just the logistics of distributing the vaccines, but also being financially involved, pledging $2 billion through the COVAX mechanism, and then another $2 billion based on the responses from other countries, asking other countries to also step up. There also is tremendous security cooperation going on. As you may know, the Nigerian government will take delivery of planes called the Super Tucanos, which will be used in fighting terrorism in the Northeast especially. But there's quite a bit of work with the Navy here as well. Very strong cooperation. Every March they have an exercise. Actually, this Thursday is the closing ceremony of what we call the Joint Combined Exercise Training with the Nigerian Navy. And this is really useful for piracy, for also Nigeria to protect its interests against illegal fishing and unregulated fishing in its territorial waters. And so our Navy, the U.S. Navy, also provides technical support in which to monitor those waters, whether it's radar, whether it's advanced technical equipment. We also send over 50 Nigerian officers to the United States for an exchange program. And that's over $1.2 million a year just on that one program, which helps with technical capacity training and professionalization of the Nigerian military as well. And that's just one small slice. Again, as I said, we also focus on good governance, peace and security, health and education. And I think you'll see the Biden administration start to also focus on anti-corruption efforts. The Biden administration really, believes that the fight against corruption is a core U.S. national interest because it affects so many aspects of a particular country. So it's very deep. It's very, very broad. And we work on this every single day at the U.S. Consulate, at the US Embassy, and indeed Mission Nigeria to deepen these relationships.
Well, I think that answers your question. Archbishop Roberts from Ikorodu in Lagos, who asked what is America's interest in Nigeria.
Hi, Ikorodu.
in Nigeria, especially as it concerns security, knowing that a peaceful country is a progressive country with the jets and the relationship between Nigeria, the Nigerian Navy and the U.S. It does a whole lot. And by the way, I think that is also helping the Nigerian Navy keep watch over the Gulf of Guinea and some other crisis areas. Quickly, let's see if we have some others here. And this is from Yusuf Akombi. And he says he just wants to congratulate the United States of America on its 245th Independence Day and wish the country the very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yusuf.
Yes, Yusuf Akombi. And which other one do we have here? This other one is a little bit long, so I'll try and shorten it. Adegboyega Adedeji says, congratulations to the people of the United States on this day. And he goes, can the U.S. ambassador... No, this is not the U.S. ambassador. This is Stephen Ibeli, is the public affairs officer. And he says, tell us why Americans... Well, I think this, I did say, well, some questions, we'll just restrict questions to relationship between Nigeria and the United States, and maybe some personal questions for Stephen. This has to do with the last election, so I'll let that pass. It has nothing to do with Stephen on this day. He wants to know why people voted in a way they voted. But anyway.
Well, I mean, it is a great question, Edegwe. America, we really work hard at having free and transparent and fair elections. The last election saw over 72 million vote. That's a record number for either a Republican or a Democrat. And then you saw, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or anywhere in between, all of those people were there at the voting stations, regardless of their political persuasion, counting votes. This goes back to what I was talking about before about this belief in our values and our ideals. And one of our ideals is free and fair elections. And you saw that in the way people counted and recounted votes. And you saw the huge amount of people using mail-in ballots and all kinds of different ballots in our sort of pandemic world. And you had a record number of people vote. And that is democracy. And that is, again, progressing those democratic ideals.
Well, I decided to put that in a way so that we can actually have you respond to that quickly here. And this one is something that has to do with, now we're bringing it back home now, in Nigeria. and it will also involve the whole conversation of Stephen's adopted state of Edo. But quickly here, the US mission has, I know it has opened quite a lot of windows, in Lagos, specifically places like Lekki, in Akwa Ibom, Uyo.
Yes.
There's another, thing you guys are doing in Anambra, specifically in Oka. There's another in Benin City, Edo State, and I think there's another one in Enugu.
There are a lot, yes.
So what's the window, on America about, and how does it fit into the public diplomacy efforts of the U.S.?
That's a great question, Sulaiman. Thank you for asking that. We really want to expand into not only the large cities like Lagos and Abuja, but also the smaller cities or the secondary cities or the tertiary cities to be able to reach more people where they live. We all know how arduous travel can be for anyone, and so we really try to bring America to them. And this is sort of the idea behind what we call Windows on America, or sometimes we call them American Spaces. It's a place where people can go, and they're located at universities, sometimes NGOs. We have one at our consulate here in Lagos as well, where people can take part in a variety of events, really designed to bring Americans and Nigerians closer together. We have regular talks with U.S. speakers, embassy staff, our Fulbright scholars. It's also a way for our alumni, and we have a massive amount of alumni who have participated in our programs. They also do free programming at our American Spaces for the benefit of anyone who wants to attend. They can also learn about how to study in the United States through Education USA. We also run what we call MOOCs, which is a massive open online course. And we just finished one that took about 6 weeks, and it taught recent graduates job skills, how to write a resume, how to write a cover letter, how to interview, how to succeed in getting that job. And it was a 6-week course. You had to attend 80% of the sessions, and then we gave a certificate.
That was online?
That was online, yes. It was all virtual. And we're able, through technology, to also link our centers together. In the South, we have 13 centers. We have 4 in Lagos. We have centers or windows or spaces, as we call them, in Abeokuta, which is at the Obasanjo Presidential Library, Oka at the university, Benin City at Ibadan University, Calabar at the ICT Center, in Enugu at the University of Enugu, the Enugu campus. Ibadan is by itself next to a big store called Booksellers. Asobo at the university, Port Harcourt at the university, and Uyo also at the university. And so our hope is that, and all of these organizations, I should say, are really our partners as well. This isn't just the United States. This is the United States in partnership with these universities, in partnership with these institutions, in partnership with the staff that help us run these centers. We provide the equipment, we provide the training to the staff. Last week, we were just talking about this before we came on air. We were in Auka, Enugu, and Benin City last week doing training for all of those staff that are working at our centers. So it's a real partnership, and people can really learn a lot of different types of programming from leadership and entrepreneurship, and take part in these programs. We live stream a lot of the programs, some of them happening in Lagos, for example, and so people can tune in and really learn a little bit more about the United States, as well as do some research as well.
I think let's see if we can actually expatiate more on the MOOCs, because I think I'm one of those lucky Nigerians who's taken courses, from the Kennedy Knight Center, the Journalism Center, through the same MOOCs. I didn't know that you had something for Nigerians. Perhaps Nigerians will want to know more about it, and know if and when you'll be having another round of MOOCs.
Sure. They can find out at all of our American centers. They can look at our website as well, which is ng.usembassy.gov. We just finished one,
You want to take that again?
Of course, ng.usembassy.gov. And that GOV is really important because that means it's the American government. A lot of people, unfortunately, when they go to find out information about Education USA or even visa information, they go to sites that don't have this .gov. And that information can be inaccurate. They may be paying even for information that's free. So if it ain't .gov, it ain't legit. So it's really, really important to make sure that it has that .gov. Another great, with regards to visa information is travel.state.gov. That also has the latest. And again, you notice travel.state.gov. And you have that ending, that GOV. Really, really, really important. So we should be starting the next MOOC up in the next couple of weeks, and we certainly will announce it through our websites and through also social media as well, which is US in Nigeria. And I'm sorry, but we are using Twitter. We are concerned about that, so we are still continuing to tweet as well, so you can find out there. If you don't have access to Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, US in Nigeria.
So quickly, before I go back to all the questions, I'm happy about the MOOCs. And of course, don't forget, if you're listening, ng.usembassy.gov. And of course, for travel matters, especially with relations to visas, travel.state.gov, right?
Exactly.
Good. This is your honest, opinion on the social media. I know you were here when that happened, and of course, everyone is about Twitter now, trying to see how this can be resolved. Time was this show. We take a lot of messages, a lot of comments from Twitter. So for now, that is not working on the discourse. So, what's the U.S. position on the Twitter ban?
Well, I think you've seen from statements from our Secretary of State, from also our ambassador, that we're concerned about the Twitter ban. We don't think that the right course is to limit freedom of expression. We feel very strongly about that. The freedom of the press is enshrined in our Constitution. Going back to our conversation about July 4th, and so we're quite concerned. It also is something that Twitter is something that Nigerians use. They use it for business. They use it for advertising, and so I think it's also going to have unfortunately, a negative effect also on the ability for people to advertise some of their products. Transparency, openness are always the better path.
Well, I'm happy that you've been able to also reiterate your country's views on that, and I'm hoping that that conversation which the Nigerian government is having with the microblogging site will yield some form of a good resolution in the days ahead. But
we do as well.
Yes, but quickly here, before we come back to some of these key things, I was going to ask you about some of those places you've been to. You were in Benin, and I also understand that there is something called the Ambassador Fund for Cultural Orientation. It hits me because I know that we have a lot of cultural places. You've just also named Benin, Ife, even Enugu. We also have some cultural, places. So tell us more about the Ambassador Fund for Cultural Orientation.
Wonderful program, wonderful program indeed. It's the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation, AFCP, and again, you can find all that information on our website, ng.usembassy.gov. But basically, it's a fund where museums and NGOs and all kinds of organizations can apply, where they want to preserve some artifact or cultural heritage from Nigeria. Often it's with a U.S. partner, and this happens actually all over the world. This is a worldwide fund. And some of our current projects are the rock carvings down south in Alok. where we hope to, after we get out of COVID, where we hope to display those at the museum in Calabar as well as the National Museum in Lagos. And then also Sunbo Aredo as well. That's a cultural preservation site that we actually just visited a week and a half ago because that has now started up. And we're working with the University of William and Mary as well as many, many Nigerian partners. And so there's a lot of information. We really encourage all organizations, if they have an idea about cultural preservation, to apply. As you know, I think a hallmark of our program and indeed our brand as the U.S. government is that we look at this transparently, and everyone has a fair shot at their proposals, and so we list them, and then we look at them by committee, so it's never just one person deciding if it's a good idea. We make recommendations, and then we send to Washington. There's another committee that looks at it as well. And so there's a real transparent process, for all of these programs, whether it's exchange programs, whether it's the Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation, or any type of grant that we're doing. We always compete them, as we say, to ensure that we have a fair, transparent, and open process. But we really do encourage anyone to apply. And again, that information is all there. And I think the next open period will be coming up in the fall. For this particular program.
And for the academic who earlier called before the start of the show, he's just sent in a message. Dr. Fred Brymer is asking if you can, to what extent, to explain more. I know you touched on a bit of it. The U.S. Binational Commission Agreement signed in 2010 has been able to assist Nigeria in the promotion of democracy and curbing, insecurity. Yeah,
this is a particular grant. I can speak more to, I think, our exchange programs, which every country has a binational commission as well, and it has to do also with the Fulbright program, which is one of our signature exchange programs. And so we send over 400 Nigerians a year on a variety of different cultural exchange program. One of them is the Fulbright, which has been in existence since the 1950s, and so we have alumni going back to the 50s.
Wow.
Of course, many of them are retired now, but every university we go to, we always meet Fulbright alumni who have done their research in the United States and come back. And again, added to that knowledge, and it's young and old. We send senior professors, we send young, exceptionally promising faculty members. We actually send, and this is really driven by demand in the United States. But universities are very interested in Yoruba and also Hausa speakers, and so we've sent a number of Nigerians to teach Yoruba and Hausa at American universities. I mean, how cool is that?
Whoa.
You go, to the United States. You're not only learning about the United States, but you're also an employee of the university, teaching these languages. We're trying to convince also to get Igbo in there, but as I said, this is not our decision. But it's really driven by by the demand of U.S. universities. Another signature program is our Mandela Washington Fellowship, which is an exchange program for accomplished young leaders who really have established records of promoting innovation and positive impact in their communities. We send about 50 a year. It's very competitive. We have loads and loads and loads of applications, and we go through every single one. And last year we had 5,000 applications.
And you went through
We went through every single one. With our partners, of course, with a big group. But that just goes to the fact that we want to make sure that we are being fair, open, transparent, equitable. So it's not everyone just from Lagos. It's not everyone just from Abuja, but they're coming from all corners of Nigeria. We have a youth initiative, which is more Lagos focused because of the fact that we match them with mentors. And this is the Carrington Youth Fellowship Initiative. where we have, again, promising young people who are paired actually with our younger diplomats and mentored by our younger diplomats, and also do projects in their communities. We also send high school students and educators on what we call the SUSI program. It's the study of U.S. institutes. We send very, very promising teachers. I was actually in Benin last week, and I met one of these exchange alumni who is now, because of her knowledge and due in some part to what she learned in the States, is now the permanent secretary at the Ministry of Education
in Benin.
And so because she brought math and teaching of math and science and technology in a way that could be done in all of the schools. And so we meet alumni like this all the time, amazing Nigerians who are going on these programs, but more importantly, coming back and applying this knowledge.
I was going to ask about the coming back aspect of it before you mentioned this, very fantastic Nigerian you met in Benin. Others, so when they come back, that's a semblance of what the country gets. Is that it? When they come back, they give their all back. They're not in terms of knowledge and expertise to Nigeria.
Absolutely.
They all come back.
They all come back. I mean, it's a requirement of the program. They have to come back. And actually, they're barred from going on another United States program for 2 years. So we can give other people a chance to go. I should mention also one of our in sort of indigenous programs is the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And this is teaching. Last year, we taught 120 women entrepreneurship skills, job skills. They did a pitch competition. This year, we're even upping it a little bit more. We're going to do more, a bigger cohort. But we're also going to give the winners of a pitch competition some seed money to also start their business. There is no shortage of creativity in this country. There is no shortage of ability in this country. It is the infrastructure that sometimes prevents people from being able to achieve their dreams, whether that's financing, whether that's low cost borrowing of money, whether that's just getting a chance to be able to pitch to someone. And so we try to get them to the door and then open that door and see if they can walk through that door. And so 20 of those last year of the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs were actually women who were victims of trafficking. Victims of trafficking. And it was a very moving ceremony in which many of the women said, I gave up hope until this program. I didn't have any opportunities until this program. We did another one in Benin with the Sabi Hub, one of our partners, for 50 women who were also victims of trafficking. And I was there. I gave out the certificates. It was incredible to see these women who were at some point victims of trafficking now taking control of their lives, pitching a business idea, looking at the products that they developed, from bead boxes to wonderful wardrobes to Greek yogurt, like we were talking about before.
You had a taste of the Greek
I wish
yogurt.
I did, unfortunately, but they had some samples there, and I really wanted to get the sample, but I didn't want to be rude as well. But and it was just amazing watching these women pitch their products. And then at the end, they were going to...
sorry to cut you,
yes, please,
David.
go ahead.
Off the top of my head, what comes to mind is trying to get the faces of these women, knowing full well that one of the things they suffer when they come back is stigmatization.
Absolutely.
And if you can actually empower some of these people to become independent and, become entrepreneurs and start their own thing, and even helping other young women and girls in such communities like in Benin City, where you said you met these people, it means a whole lot for them.
It's life-changing. It is, and all of our programs are life-changing. They just are. You go to the United States or you learn a different skill, even here. I mean, some of our programs take place here in Nigeria and don't have a travel component or have been virtual because of the pandemic. But we just see all of our exchange alumni just re-energized, re-engaged, revitalized, and really taking those projects to their communities where they live to improve their communities. We had a group of alumni doing what they called a cleanup campaign. This was funded modestly by the Department of State, and they were doing cleanup in Enugu and Port Harcourt, Lagos and Calabar. And so it was really wonderful to see the youth just working on getting out that message of recycling, getting out that message of the environment, which is so key for the future of humanity, really.
Now let's talk about your section. That's the public affairs section. I know you organize a broad range of activities that promote some of the things we have just highlighted here on the program, specifically U.S.-Nigeria relations, and of course people-to-people ties, cultural ties. Most recently you hosted STEM learning programs, media capacity building workshops, and the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, which we highlighted. But for the second half of the year, are there other programs lined up by your section, public affairs section, that people will be looking to, join in, even if it's virtual because of COVID?
Absolutely. Our American Windows on America, or our American Spaces, will be running programs, and we're working very hard to keep that going and even add to that lineup. We'll be opening additional centers in Abeokuta and Asobo. They're open now, but we'll do official openings there. We're doing a teacher training for teachers in Ibadan to really identify 100 excellent teachers and give them access to a resource database that they will have for life, so they can look on how to teach science, or how to teach biology, or how to teach resilience in the students, how to deal with all those aspects that really challenge teachers. We are tireless in our advocacy for Education USA. So we always have, almost weekly, we have information sessions. We had information sessions on our last trip when we were in Enugu and at the Nasuka campus, and then also in other parts as well. There's lots of information about studying in the United States also online, which is educationusa.state.gov.gov. Again, we have that GOV, which is the legitimate site of the U.S. government. We have so many of those different programs. We're also recruiting for the next cohort of the Mandela Washington Fellowship that I spoke about. And you don't necessarily need also a program to learn or to get skills about community organizing. There's another wonderful website with great resources called YALI, which is YALI.state. And again, what's coming next? .gov. G-O-V. YALI.state.gov. And there's lots of resources there. But you can find out information about how to apply for the Mandela Washington Fellowship. Again, very competitive, but we have wonderful exchange alumni from this program.
Well, for those just coming in, joining us, asking questions, if you've spoken about the Twitter ban, Amarachi, yes, he did. For those who missed out on that, you can get to watch this program on the Classic FM YouTube channel. It will be uploaded very, very soon, so that you can actually catch up on what he said about the Twitter ban. Stephen and I initially thought that 1 hour was going to be too long for this conversation on a day.
No way, Jose.
But look at it now. We're not even scratched the surface yet, but we have almost 4 minutes to wind down. But before we do, let's quickly talk about, I like that you mentioned some key, Nigerian greats, Davido, Burna Boy, and, when we talk about this other question, I think, apologies, I'll come back to that. Well, this is not for Stephen. It should be for the ambassador. But Stephen and I, this is on the public, affairs section. These are matters, and if you know what I mean, Stephen, don't ask me to give you that question, because that's not your question. So quickly here, I was going to ask about, art and culture, looking at these people, I know Nigerian music and movies. Earlier on, when you came on, you met the movie producer Lawrence, featured before he left. Are there things, are there collaborations that people should know about between the U.S. government or your consulate and Nigerian, talents?
No, that's a great question. Most of that, I think, happens with the private sector because obviously it's driven by what the music industry thinks is a good investment. But I think it's just a testament to the creativity and the popularity of Nigeria is an exporter of its culture. And that's another shared value that we have with the two countries. The United States exports its culture around the world, and Nigeria is beginning to export its culture, its music, its art, its film. And so we really look forward to that, and we try to broker those relationships when we can. We try to facilitate those relationships when we can. Universal Music is here now, Amazon is here, Netflix is here. And so I think you're seeing a huge interest in the United States for this type of culture. And again, I think the one obstacle here is really the infrastructure, post-production, for example, for movies. Sound is a big one as well. We participate yearly also in film festivals, AFRIF, for example, and that's another great venue for featuring the relationship between Nigeria and America and showing American films and also featuring the work of Nigerian Americans in this space.
Okay, before we round off quickly, if we can take some of those key handles again that can help Nigerians, especially in terms of travel, in terms of information, and some other, I recall the ng.usembassy.gov, but a few other ones you want to, read out again so that they can have them saved up.
Sure. There's educationusa.state.gov, where you can learn about how to study in the United States. We also have a scholarship program that just closed, but it happens yearly. This is called the Opportunity Funds Program, where we send 30 to 40 students to the United States. They apply for this program. Again, very competitive, but we send 30 to 40 kids every year to the United States. They usually get full scholarships, and we remove all the obstacles to their getting the full scholarship. So the plane tickets, the exam fees, the application fees. Another great travel resource for those of you wanting information on travel is travel.state.gov. And again, please do not pay for this information. It's all free. Don't pay someone to do your application to study in the United States. Don't pay someone for a visa appointment. Don't pay. It's all this information is free. That is one of the principles of the United States. And indeed, also all of our American spaces, all of our windows on America, it's free.
Well, I think at this point, I'd like to say thank you so much for being such a nice company, David Ibelli, who's the Consulate Public Affairs Officer. And we have other guests. I think you can come over so we can just introduce you.
Come say hi, guys.
Come say hi. And you are?
Seraphine, hi.
So what do you do?
I'm currently a summer hire at the US Consulate in the Public Affairs section.
Oh, great. There we have a guy here.
And I'm Angelo, and I'm also summer hire here at the
You want to take off your mask? I'll tell you what someone said about Stephen. He sent a message and he said, he speaks so clearly we can hear him. So you want to do that? Take that again.
Try it again, Angelo.
My name's Angelo, and I'm also a summer hire over at the consulate.
One of the things that we do is we invest in our youth, and so these are actually children of our employees, and we let them experience what their parents do.
Awesome.
At the consulate. And I have two other colleagues here as well.
Yes.
Who is both just amazing people.
Tebintayo Famutim is my name, and I work at the Public Affairs section here in Lagos.
And
we call him the guru.
And someone coming to the mic is not new to the mic.
Ayo Durodala is my name. I work at the Public Affairs section too.
And he's like a Yoruba chief, by the way. It's amazing. Go to the university, go to the museum in Benin, and you will see a picture of Io's grandfather on the wall, great grandfather on the wall.
I know.
No joke.
No, that's true. Anyway, I think thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And as I said earlier on, you can get to listen to this conversation again on our YouTube channel. I'm Sulaiman. Many thanks for listening.
Thanks, Classic FM.
Thank you, Steven.